What's going on, macro perspective peeps? Man, I'm super stoked for this episode. Today's episode is gonna be a little more lighthearted. A few guys chatting it up. We've got Dario Herrera here, who I got to meet on a shoot with Cinegenics. We're doing some marketing material. Got to hang out in Calabasas at the nice house there, looking good. We got to look over like some cool things, do some great shots, and then we had a little one arm push up off. And I got to give it to Dario. You know, he's weighing heavier than me and he did more reps. We call him Mr. Ethnically Ambiguous, because what's the answer to that, Dario? What are you?
Yes.
I love it. Like, that's the thing. But I wanted to just frame the podcast and the talk today with Marcos, you and I, just in all honesty, like, you've been in this space, you've been doing performance, you run a company, and you're like a successful guy, and like, you know, your 20 years plus are like mentor, like, is what I like to say, and be able to just kind of chop it up and shoot shop of like, you know, how has performance looked like for you from the competitive realm to the day to day in life, and then like, what can people learn from that? Because it's like sometimes we look into podcasts and people are like learning all these protocols and advanced protocols, but they just don't know what it looks like for the end user and how that looks like years removed and how the science has progressed and how you've thought about it. Probably like to get a lot of wisdom actually out of this conversation. So, Dario, you mind just kind of introducing yourself, what your experience has been in that competitive world and landscape, and where you're at now as a professional? Yeah, man, we appreciate you being here.
Yeah. First of all, what you're going to get from me is a lot of truth. I'm not sure how much wisdom you'll get. You'll get a lot of truth. You'll get some perspective. I'm not sure how much wisdom because I haven't always been all that wise. You know, I've been careless at times. But listen, being well for me goes beyond how I look, right? It also factors in how do I feel about myself? What's my mental game look like? How motivated I am to wake up in the morning and do what I'm going to do that day? You know, how can I show up in life with energy and vitality and authenticity? So that's been a journey. You know, I played college football and I was 18. I'm 52 now, right? And in many ways, I'm in better shape now than I was then. And it's because I have a holistic practice now. It's not just about looking good, it's about feeling good, making sure all of my stats are good, making sure I'm getting the right sleep, the right hydration, and incorporating consistency for the sake of life, not the sake of, you know, a sport or anything like that. Now I'm still active. I play basketball all the time with your guys, kick their ass all the time. And I certainly, you know, I played flag football up until 2 years ago, and I'm in 2 Hall of Fames for flag football and all those things. I have that competitive drive, but to me, you know, when I think about wellness, it means to me, you know, how are you as a dad? How are you as a son? How are you as a brother? How are you as a business leader? How are you showing up day to day in life, right? I know so many guys who put so much emphasis on what they look like and what they can bench or squat or deadlift, and they're assholes. You know, they spend 4 hours in the gym. They don't care about life necessarily. You know, they're not advancing themselves from a self-growth perspective, from a mental health perspective, from a business perspective. And that's good for them. Listen, I applaud them. You can squat 405, 25 times, great. You know, what do you do when you leave the gym? Who are you when you leave the gym? And that's kind of, for me, the overall wellness incorporates, you know, how I live my life. And I think that's a perspective that, you know, a lot of young guys who are so into the aesthetic of working out and into the numbers of working out, if anything, I can tell them is like, hey, that's great. And what else are you doing? What professional development are you doing? What personal growth are you doing? What are you doing to take care of your mental health? And those are the conversations that I have regularly, and they're really helpful because I learn from them too. You know, I learn from, and I also get an opportunity to hold myself accountable. Oh, I'm saying this. Oh, am I doing that? You know, I've meditated now 273 days in a row. I wake up in the morning, I do a self-inventory. Hey, what am I feeling today? Higher power, what am I lacking today? Am I feeling scarce? Okay, I do an abundance meditation. If I'm feeling like entitled, I do a gratitude meditation. If I'm feeling anxious, then I do an inner peace meditation. So that I start off my day on the right foot with the right foundation, no matter what's going on in my life. You know, I'm in this world, but I'm not of the world, meaning no matter what happens out there, like I'm okay, right? I'm grounded. I know what I want to do. I know what I want to accomplish today. And yeah, life happens, and you know, you get kind of obviously thrown off path all the time. At least I do. But that foundation, that movement of mind, movement of body every day helps me be grounded and deal with life in a way I think is at least works for me. How about that?
Yeah, I mean, well said. I think yeah, this transition in, I mean, the last 5 years to a more like predominant outward. I guess the kids, the youth would say aura farming, right? It's like
Yeah,
it's just
I love
like
that
the
aura farming.
yeah, like the thing that you're projecting is like this essence, and that essence is like basically being transcribed through video, right? And it's kind of being permeated through like the universe in that sense. And it's like a whole new way of doing that versus like the in-person sense. And I think, like you just said, these people in the gym, they're there 4 hours squatting 405, but they're assholes. Like, meanwhile, it's like, I mean, for me, I'm working out at the same time practically every morning. It's like 5 to 6, 6:30, right? And you're generally around like the same like core group of people if you're at the same
Mm-hmm.
facility, right? But how many of those people have you taken like the time to just like talk with, get to know a little bit better? And like you just
Yeah.
said, like to me, that's part of like how I want to show up is like, I mean, again, granted, that could be the next potential client, but I'm not there to like sell them on anything. I just want to get to know them and kind of hear their story. Like, why are you here so consistently? Right? Like, what's your
Right.
why right now? Like, and I think when one of my clients in a challenge I was doing asked me that question, it's like, you seem to have it all together. What makes you keep showing up for more? I was like, job is not done. Like Kobe Bryant type of quote there. It's like, it's like, job ain't done. We won a game, like I won a few things. I'm doing all right now. But like, this is the perpetual journey that I'm on. And I just want to be the healthiest version of self and, look internally. To me, that's like my meditation. My meditation, quote unquote, is like, I think I have a streak now of whew, however many days of uninterrupted, like, quote, me time for like an hour, hour and a half, first thing in the morning. And it doesn't matter where I'm at or if I'm traveling. And to me, like, that's like part of my journey. I'd say it's probably over 1,000 days now.
That's a great
Okay.
practice. I love that practice.
Yeah. I mean, again, it's like simple, right? I mean, because I'm not the person to sit there and like just meditate, right? Like, and do that and kind of like journey within in that sense. Journeying within with like hearing other people's stories because it helps me kind of reflect on, oh, maybe I should have approached this conversation differently. Or maybe my
Mm-hmm.
business coach, when she made that comment, like the way I'm like acting, like I'm acting out or I'm saying things in a particular way. And like she knows that. And, she just trying to convince me here about basically reframing how I'm saying certain things. Like, no, I'm intentionally saying it this way though. Because I want to fix the issue, quote unquote, in my head. But me just saying, like just changing the interpretation or like saying it slightly differently, right? Like letting go. She's like, well, a lot of people like let go or view it in a different light and like be okay with it. I was like, yeah, but did it ever get resolved? Have you ever asked your clients that? And she's like, that's a good question. And I was like, okay. So they just like moved on from said issue. The issue may not have ever been fixed. And to me, it's like, it's a big deal. So
Yeah.
yeah.
That's great. By the way, meditation comes in all forms. For me, the practice happens in the morning in a specific way, but I meditate throughout the day too. For example, for me, folding laundry is meditative. It's a time I'm not on my phone, I'm not listening to music, I'm not working, and I'm just doing that. I'm present just doing that.
Yeah.
And I've come to just enjoy that. So that's a form of meditation. You can meditate walking, you can meditate while you're driving, you can meditate at your desk. There's so many different forms. Really, it's just an opportunity to be present,
Yeah.
right? And that practice looks different for everybody. But being present, that to me is the essence of meditation. And when life happens, can you pause and not react and instead respond? There's
Yeah.
meditation in those micro moments of life too, where there's a triggering event and you get to show up a certain way. And for me, if it's a default way, it's not good. But if I have that pause and I respond versus react, generally speaking, that's going to be a constructive interaction. Not always positive because, listen, life happens. There's conflict in the world. People disagree. Sometimes they disagree vehemently. We see this in politics all the time. But I don't let them affect my inner being, right? They don't take me off my course. I'm not looking for them to approve of who I am. I'm not looking for them to agree with me. I'm just looking to be me, right?
Yeah.
And I think even those moments in life provide an opportunity for what I call micro meditation.
Yeah.
A pause, a presence, a purpose. I've found that as I do that, and by the way, I'm not perfect at it, so I'm not even suggesting that I'm perfect at it because I'm far from perfect at all that I do. I show up as a flawed human being. I accept my flaws. I work on myself every day, and I fail every day, and I learn every day.
Yeah.
But when I take those opportunities to create connections, and really the connection first is with my higher power, and then the connection next is with myself. and then the connection is with the person in front of me, I find like I have a lot more equilibrium in my life.
I like that. I think it's like showing up the way you committed to showing up, right? Like it's so easy to get out of whack. I know Marcos knows like I can be like way off telemetry, like just way off, but like committing to like that version that you want to present, not because you're just presenting it to the world, but because like that's who you want to be and keep practicing and stepping into that person, no matter the situation, like whether it be, with your spouse or something like that, or your kid, and it's like super intense. And it's like, look, in this moment, when I look back on this moment, how did I want to show up? Like, yes, it's intense. Maybe I'm hungry. Kids are screaming in
Right.
the back of the car. Someone just honked me off. Like, how does that person show up? Take a moment, pause, and be like, that's the way it is. And it's a day in, day out thing, like you said. It's never perfect.
Yeah.
It's never right, but it's a constant, like Marco said, perpetual motion of like, all right, reflecting back. All right, I can do that a little bit better tomorrow.
Yeah. Yeah. Reflection is important. I do that every night. Where did I win today? Meaning, where did I show up authentically as me? And where did I let some pain in the past interrupt my peace of my present? And I make an amends, to myself first because I let myself down. And then if appropriate to the person that I need to make an amends to, because life's too short to carry that around, like it's already hard enough. Let's not make it any harder on ourselves, And I try to bring, you saw me on set, Seamus, for a day. I try to bring a positive energy. I try to bring presence. I try to bring kindness. I
Yeah.
try to bring professionalism. I try to bring some joy. I have a little bit of talent in what I'm doing now, which is great. That's awesome. Some of it's God given because I have nothing to do with the way I look or how tall I am. But the things that I can't control, how I show up, how I listen, how I ask questions, how I collaborate with you, how am I part of a team? Those are all things that are at the forefront of my mindfulness every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, bringing that energy, that positive vibes. I think it's essential who I want to be. I feel like that. So speaking, I said essence. It was an exercise that my coach made me do, and was like kind of define the essence of who you are. And I think that was part of like one of the things was like that, like again, glass half full, more positive type of viewpoints, right? And I think you're so right. Like the way that you come into the room and project that energy can then be the thing that like leads to positivity and a good take, and maybe knocking it out of the park in record time, right? Because time is money in that sense, right? When they're like trying to capture all those different types of curated like lifestyle event type things, right? Is that what they were doing with the shoot, Seamus, this weekend? Kind of like trying to
Dario
get that
looked good,
essence.
man. Dario looked good. He and the other actress, Amanda. I was like, the chemistry was just like, I was like, what the like, whoa, this is so good. But you're like, they're actors.
It's all facade. It's all it's all for the
Yeah, but it's
camera.
interesting
Damn it.
because we took the time to get to know each other. We asked each other some good questions to be. I mean, listen, no matter how good of an actor you are, it's hard to get up and express love for someone in that context if you don't even know who they are.
Yeah.
So we took time to ask each other questions. How long have you been doing this? Where are you from? Are you married? What's the last thing you worked? What do you enjoy about this business? Things like that before we ever stepped on set.
Well, I feel like that's amazing. Like, I want to talk about that because like everything that you brought up, the meditation, the mindfulness, like I bet you that's so needed in your career, like the career path of being like an actor. Because like, how crazy of a lifestyle is it? Like acting, like you do one job, you're on to the next, or it takes you a while to book something. I mean, just being on the day, I told Marcos, look, we're doing this podcast right now. It's one stream of consciousness, right? We can kind of talk about things. We could falter. The imperfection is what makes it perfect. What I found, and I was telling Marcus, was you asked me 10 questions in front of that camera, and we're taking all those takes, but they didn't like how question was. So we go back to one, now we go back to seven, and we go eight. And it's like, you have to be perfect and curated and on point from everything, but then you have to like split your mind back and forth. So I'm like, for you, like, yeah, how do you deal with all that?
With care. And by the way, I don't strive for perfection.
Yeah.
I had an audition today, national brand. I'm under NDA, so I can't disclose it. I prepared 6 hours for it yesterday. I had a vision of what the audition process was going to be. I show up, it's a different process, right? The lines were slightly different. It was a staged room, completely different than what I'm used to. And listen, I look good on the camera. I look the part, but I left that room knowing I left risk taking on the table. Like I know I didn't take the risks that I practiced because in that moment I had to adapt to a new environment and
Mhm.
I didn't show up fully. I
Mhm.
mean, listen, I'm not beating myself up about it because I did the best I could. How do I know that? Because that's what I did, right? I didn't go in there thinking, oh, I'm going to leave something on the table. But I walked out knowing that I left something on the table because no matter how many times I rehearsed it, I didn't adapt to the circumstances. And I walked away and said, hey, okay, let's see what they think. I know I could have done better. That's an opportunity to learn. I wasn't down on myself. I wasn't stressed about it. I just let the audition be what it was. Okay, then I did an inventory. What could I have done different?
Mm-hmm.
And am I going to give myself permission to do that differently next time? Because a lot of acting is not being afraid to fail and just making bold choices and being who you are and embodying the character that you develop without really giving a shit how people take it. Now, obviously, we got to take direction, right? We got to follow the words that we've been given. We've got to follow direction. And ultimately, we want to create a product that's engaging for the audience to view because that's part of entertainment. But it's hard in the sense that, I'm developing multiple characters all the time. If I showed you, there's this app called Cold Read, and that's how I memorize lines. I've got 37 projects in there right now, right? And listen, in the last 3 weeks, I've played a sweet old Mexican coffee store owner. I've played a murderous cartel guy. I've played a pretty boy in shape for the weekend thing that we did with. I've played all kinds of different things that are very different. In fact, a friend of mine said, because I share my self tapes, and she says to me, "Who are you going to be today?" And by the way, and which was the real you?
Yeah.
And then my answer is like, those are just characters. I'm me, and I'm not affected by those characters. However, there's a piece of me in every one of those characters. Like, I've been kind at a coffee shop before. I can embody that as a coffee store owner. I've been angry beyond recognition, so I can connect to that. I've been hurt. I've been sad. I mean, in a thing I did the other day, I was 7 different people in one feature film. Literally 7 characters in one feature film. And I was still me, and every one of those characters had a piece of me. So it is hard. And by the way, a lot of people have this impression about acting and actors and the entertainment business. It's all glamorous. 99% of the work I do is not glamorous. What you see, the result of the work I do, might look good and might come across as glamorous, but self-submitting, dealing with managers, dealing with agents, memorizing lines, submitting yourself, being told no 100 times to get one yes, the character development. I mean, for one audition, I had 14 pages of notes on who this character was, down to his beginning of life and what happened until he got to that moment in that scene that I was given to audition from. So a lot of that work is not sexy work, but it's meaningful work. And it allows me to be truthful in all that I'm doing, whether it's with Amanda, beautiful woman at a Calabasas home, you live in the high life, quote unquote, and drinking cool smoothies, or whether it's this humble little Mexican dude doing good in his little coffee shop, there's truth in all of that. You guys are speechless? Come on, you have
no
processing.
You got nothing?
Marcos processing.
No, embodying, like you just said, like I guess it's just like it's hard to. Yeah, I could imagine. I'm picturing myself in that scenario of like 7 different like characters, but putting a piece of you into it, right? Like, and kind of making it your own. And the question that came to mind to me also was like, in this moment where you're in front of this, again, like obscure situation, right? It wasn't exactly how you intended it. And then you have line reads for the audition. Like, is there any like actor interpretation, or do you have to kind of read it verbatim as to like what's there? Like, because like you're saying, it's like kind of putting your essence in there. It's like, it probably would sound better like this.
They're
right?
all different. They're all different. Some of them require you to be word perfect, meaning don't deviate at all. But I've been on set multiple times where I'll say to the director, "Hey, I'm having a hard time saying this like this." And I can't really, I have a little bit of an accent, and sometimes I mumble words, and there's certain words that are hard for me to pronounce. I'm like, I really can't say that cleanly. I can say this cleanly, and sometimes they'll say, "Yeah, sounds great. Let's do that." Other times they'll say, "No, make that sound great." Okay, then I make that sound, "Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am." Oh, and the same is true with scenes. Like, I was in a feature film not too long ago. It's called Mediation, and it's a student film, very cool production, where the director didn't have marital experience and didn't have really, I think, the kind of perspective I have on the difficulty of marriage. Let's put it at that, right? So the scene is we're in a therapist's office, and there's this neat conversation where husband talks, therapist talks, wife talks, husband responds, wife responds, therapist responds. I don't know about you guys, but if you've been in therapy going through a difficult marriage, it's not that way. I'm jumping on words. She's jumping on my words. I'm getting interrupted. I'm interrupting. I'm getting up. I'm walking around. So it was cool because she was so wise, not because she listened to me, but because she was open to the truth of the situation.
Yeah.
And she incorporated like 80% of my notes into the new script, and the new production is going to incorporate a lot of that direction. And that includes me interrupting, my spouse, her interrupting me, some very tense moments where you're wondering, are these people going to stay in that fucking room together, let alone married?
Yeah. Yeah. No, it's so cool
So
that
so it's cool because to your question, everyone's different, and part of my responsibility is to see the opportunities where I think make something more truthful, right, or better, and offer that, but also have the humility to understand that the director runs the show, and we
yeah.
do it his or her way, and that's it. To me, acting is a gift. I get to play for pay now. I played for free my entire life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Now I get to play for free. I mean, to get paid.
No,
Awesome.
that's so cool. No, I love that. I love that like you're able to give the direction to the director. And it was interesting, being part of things like that where on paper things sound yeah, but like in reality, like when you look at something, like when you look at a movie, like something plays out and you want it to be grounded and real, it's so great to take that direction. What did get you into acting though, Dario? What was the impetus for that? What was like, hey, I think I could try to hack this.
I was meeting with my therapist, and he said to me, Dario, and we're doing inner child work specifically. And he said to me, when was the last time you gave yourself permission to be creative? And I said, I'm creative all the time. I have a creative agency, branding and marketing agency. I'm the CEO of a software market technology company that is based in creativity. He said, not for pay, for play.
Mm.
When was the last time you were creative for play? And I couldn't think of one time in my lifetime since I was 14 years old where I was creative for play. And he said, what would you do? Can you give yourself permission to play? And I won't go into the long story now because it's a long story, but there was a specific event when I was 17 that happened. Actually, started at 14 and culminated at 17, where I shut down the creative part, where I consciously well, I guess it was subconscious. It's conscious now because I know about it, but at the time I didn't. I shut down that creative side of me, right? And here I am 35 years later revisiting that. And anyway, I gave myself permission based on that conversation. And that was a Thursday. On Friday, I started researching acting classes. And then I sent a couple emails. One responded. They had an audition that following Monday. I showed up to the audition. I got accepted to the, acting class. And I went to work. I went to work. I started to learn. I was listening. I was present. I was letting myself not be comfortable. I
Yeah.
was pushing myself to not do the same old thing and play it safe all the time. And then boom, I got one job, and boom, then I got another job, and then another job, and then I got an agent, then I got a manager, then I got another agent, and now I have a featured film I'm shooting September 15th where I'm the co-lead. My character is a layered character, and the movie's gonna be badass.
That's so cool.
Tomorrow I'm playing the lead in a different movie. I've done shoots, I've done national farmer commercials, national car commercials, and that happened because I gave myself, the permission to play, and when that happened, kind of the universe, kind of created a little pavement for me.
Yeah.
I took the first step, and then the next step, and the next step. And by the way, like it hasn't been easy. Like my business has suffered because of it. Honestly, I moved from San Diego to LA. I had my entire community in San Diego. Now I'm in LA. I know 5 people here. You know, maybe maybe 7. And they're all in acting. So it hasn't been like this. This is so easy. I work 16, 17, 18-hour days. There was a time where I was on 2 films and I was getting out of one film at 1 in the morning, showing up at 7 a.m.
Yeah.
Yep.
So it's not like, a lot of the time it's like, what the fuck are you doing? I have to be insane to do this. And guess what? I probably am, but I love it and I wouldn't change a thing.
Yeah, well, that's the beauty. I love that. First off, amazing therapist, probably. I think doing some therapy work, looking at that inner child work is great. But I think the biggest thing there is allowing yourself permission to go into areas that probably at some point would have developed, but something happened in your life, busyness, whatever it is, kids or something that then underdeveloped an area, and then you kind of rehash out that passion and it just explore. And I think that's great because it's like an evolution of yourself. You can come back to that later on in life. And I mean, I was telling Marcos this the other day. I was like, y'all don't know what it is, but or not the other day, but like it was a few months ago. I was like, I don't know what it is, but I'm getting back into more speed cubing again. And I just started timing myself, and I was like getting more into the cubing again because that was like a big part of my life. And I
Yeah.
just kind of relaxed again. But it's like the play, I think, is an aspect that I've talked to my therapist about this is I think we crave it, and at some point in our psyche or in our life, either you have to attentively do it proactively like you're doing, or it's going to force itself to come in somehow because like I think human nature has to have an aspect of play.
Yeah, I agree. I agree.
What I wanted to ask now is maybe a little bit more in depth in, look, you just outlined a whole arc and the day to day. You gave us like those hours, like, man, those are some rough hours. And then you're, how do I say this? You're almost bipolar because you're playing one character, then you're like another. So, like, how do you, and maybe we can get scientific and whatever you're comfortable with, because I think that's also part of the conversation we have is like, dude, how do you stay on top of your game? Like, how do you stay on top of your game? I know you do some meditation and do some other stuff, but like to look as good as you do, to perform as you good as you do, to keep that focus, that mental state, like what are some of the things that keep you on the edge, man, on that what we call that razor's edge, right, Marcos?
Yeah.
DP Gates, razor's edge.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's a great question. And
And
honestly, the answer is different every day based on how I'm feeling and based on what my schedule is. But the number one thing I would say is consistency.
Mhm.
There's no replacement for consistency. I'm 52 now. I've been working out since I was 18. There's been some lulls here and there, but I've got enough of a foundation that I could skip 3 days because I have to, whether it's travel or work or what have you, and be back that fourth day. But I'm not gonna let that third day become a fourth day, fifth day, sixth day, seventh day, eighth day. I might have a crappy meal, but guess what? The next 12 to 15 meals are gonna be clean. So I think consistency is not perfection because there's no such thing as perfection. We're human beings. We're not human doings, right? So consistency is a big part of that. But listen, also I take care of nutrition. I don't eat fast food regularly. Typically cook at home. I'm eating pretty clean. 2 chicken breasts, broccoli, avocado. I'm having a grass-fed, organic grass-fed steak with a sweet potato. Instead of having butter on it, I'll put olive oil.
Yeah.
Things like that. I stay hydrated throughout the day. I could do better with that, candidly, but I don't drink sodas regularly. I'm drinking water, and then I supplement. I think I have 25 different pills I take every morning. If I walked over with the camera and showed you my pill cabinet, you're like, oh wow, you should get a third, stack of it, a third shelf for it because it's really cramped. Things like omega 3s and vitamin D and vitamin C. Things like DHEA. I take some mushroom stuff. I'd have to literally go down the list. I take zinc every day. I take vitamin D every day. I take a multivitamin. I do my AG1 shake in the morning. I'm not plugging AG1. There's other brands I'm sure that are great, but for me that works. It tastes good. And no matter what I eat that day, I know I have all my fruits and vegetables in the morning. I have complete food proteins. I'm not scientific about it. I just have done it my entire life, right? I don't have a coach. I'd love a coach. I'd love to really get into that more structured, and to see, okay, what's the outside look like? What's the inside look like? And how do they affect each other? But I just really been self-programming since I was 18 with a few exceptions here and there. And then I do peptides too, right? I do things like Solank and CMAX. I do
Mm.
NAD, I do glutathione. At times I'll do like tesamorelin if I gotta get really lean for a thing and I don't have the time to add 2 hours of cardio into my day of, zone 2 steady state cardio. So I ask for help in that way. And in a lot of that, I've self protocol based on research and based on, people who know what they're doing. But a lot of it for me has been like discovery and just kind of feeling what works.
Yeah. Yeah.
Does that make sense?
Oh
Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah. I mean,
You got
just
Marcos.
living.
Marcos is rattling up right now.
No, I'm just processing it because it's funny. He's saying that he's just kind of observing what works, taking the tutelage of others and trying to apply it, learning how it can be applicable to use certain use case scenarios, right? And then probably cycling it in based off of, again, whatever role that might come up. Which leads me to the question I was going to ask probably like 10 minutes ago. How long have you been doing the acting thing?
I've been doing it now 5 months.
Dude, killing it.
What? 5 months? It was just you had a therapy session at the beginning of 2025 and you decided, hey, I'm just gonna go find an acting class and here I am shooting a feature film.
Yes.
Okay. So would
It's
you
funny, my
say,
acting coach said, I shared some news with him. He said, Dario, this is incredible. Like, what you've accomplished in 4 months, because at the time it was 4 months, a lot of very good actors have accomplished in 10 years. And it took a moment. And instead of being pride about it, I felt sad for those people. And I also felt really grateful that I've been given the gifts that I've been given, work ethic included, the
Yeah,
physical gifts I've been given, the emotional reservoir of life that I get to pull from for these roles,
Mm.
and I give a ton of credit. It's the rehearsal studio in San Diego. Harry Scott, he's amazing. If you're in the area and you're looking to be an actor, I have to plug him. He has been doing this for 43 years, and he invites you to bring a part of you to everything you do and to understand these characters so well that even if you forget the line, you're going to deliver it perfectly because you know the character so well. That's exactly what he or she would say, literally.
Mhm.
But yeah, man, it's been a total of 5 months now, and I've made the transition from San Diego to LA. I was driving back and forth. I think there was a period where I was working in LA like 37 days in a row or something like that, and like it doesn't make sense,
that makes sense. Yes, more opportunities here. It sounds
Oh
like
yeah.
Yeah, yeah.
So then 5 months, you mentioned downturn of like your own personal endeavors with business is probably not hurting you too much because you're probably that's just you being quote unquote a perfectionist, I'm sure, right? You're just
Yeah.
like, but at the end of the day too, like this opportunity at this age, and you also mentioned an accent, which I think, do you feel as though that helps you? All right. Sorry for the abrupt pause, but Dario was getting a phone call and he's been waiting for it all day apparently, and he's gonna break us the news. It was for, I don't even know, some sort of role apparently. So
Yeah, it's a lead in a feature film, and I'm under NDA now, so I can't discuss the title of the film yet, but I can tell you the theme. And what the director said was, first, we respected so much your professionalism, how prepared you were when you showed up, how much you listened when I gave you direction, how you were willing to adapt, and how committed you were to the character, and how passionate you were to get it right. Having said all that, you're the lead in our movie.
yeah. Let's go, dude. Nice,
congrats,
Dario. That's
man.
awesome, man.
Yeah.
So does that mean you have like, well, 37 plus one more now, 38 total projects to work on?
Yeah, yeah, and he said, I'll send you the script today, and we'll start developing the character, and he and I will meet next week to start making important choices, like what accent am I going to use, what Spanish accent am I going to use, English accented Spanish am I going to use, like those are the things that happen now as I start developing the character's backstory based on the script. What makes sense? What got this character to this point that he's willing to use his kids to torture people, while he puts out a public face that's very gregarious and charismatic and man of society, and the meantime there's some crazy ass shit going on in the basement. You know the movie
Dang.
the girl with the dragon tattoo?
Yeah.
Great movie. Great
Think
book.
about that, except the kids are the ones perpetrating some of the things that go on.
Yeah, that makes a lot
Fuck.
of sense.
Now I gotta go back and watch that movie / read the book.
Yeah,
In a
Yeah,
minute.
they're both were great. I mean, I read the book first, and then I wasn't disappointed. Usually, I'm pretty disappointed when I watch a movie after I've read the book, but it was a great adaptation, and the actress was great.
It's funny. I prefer doing it in reverse. I like to watch the movie and then read the book and see
That's
whether
cool.
or not the director captured the essence of like what you may have like, because then you put a face there. Like I
Yeah,
read The Martian after the Martian movie, right? And
yeah.
I'm like, in my head, I was like, what did Matt Damon actually encapsulate like this person and the persona? And I was like, I don't know if I could think of another actor really playing that role. Now I should probably do it in reverse too with a lot more things, but it's hard to like recreate that same experience with the same movie unless I woke up with Alzheimer's, you know?
Yeah. That's hilarious. Yeah.
Forget the next day, yeah, or the previous day.
Yeah. And I was like, it actually like, hold on, Shane, 1 second. It actually like helped me feel more like actually engaged. It was probably like one of the first books I was like really like kind of into because I could kind of think about like the sarcasm that he brought to the character. And I think it's kind of cool. Like, I don't know. I mean, if there was ever a way, I mean, I guess like I never really read the Harry Potter book. So like at this point I could go back and do, it's been decades, right?
Well, you should, because they're doing the whole series now.
Well, yeah, I guess, right? Is it a whole new, like, they're making it in TV show version?
It's a TV show version. I think it's going to work out. much better because it's like you can contain a book.
You can have more character development than an hour and a half or 2 hour movie. Yeah.
That's what I like. I mean, personally for myself, sorry if I'm taking you up, but like, for example, like the Jack Reacher series, like I was talking to my brother, Chad Stilinski, the guy that does the production for like John Wick, has his novels that I read and I love them. It's like Jack Reacher, but like with a little bit of like supernatural, like government military woo woo kind of stuff. And it's called Joe Ledger and it's like along the same lines and like Amazon's going to do a line with that. I'm like, yeah, I don't want to see that as a movie. I want to see it as a series because you could like take a book and then spend 10 episodes on it, right, Marco? So it's like,
yeah, I mean, I don't know. I guess like the character development thing, I've appreciated it more, and I feel like, again, movies but there's also something to appreciate there, right? So if you're doing for Dario, for you, if you have to try to like, that it's truncated down to 90 minutes, like how do you build the backstory in like again how that character is hurt in a sense or whatever, like you said, is like hidden underneath, and so like there's a whole probably different way of approaching that versus like an extended series in terms of the acting, which again, you're still green into this.
I don't think it's that different, honestly. I don't think it's that different. Now, I haven't done a series yet, so I say that as an actor who's done commercial stuff and has been the lead in feature films now and played co-star roles as well. The character is the character. It doesn't change from scene to scene, right? It doesn't change from episode to episode. Like Jack Reacher, Alan, what's his name?
Richardson.
Yeah, Richmond. He made his choices about Reacher before he did the first episode. Now he carries that character forward into each episode, right?
Yeah.
So to me, and I know this sounds kind of maniacal for me, but whether I'm doing a commercial, like my audition today, or I'm doing a feature film, I approach it exactly the same way. What got this guy exactly to that point? What was that? I mean, for an audition, I had 14 pages of notes. I showed them to the director, and he's like, no way. And listen to this. He liked my notes so much that he added 20 pages to the script and incorporated my notes. So I could play the parts of my character that he didn't cover in his script, So that's the stuff that's so just juicy.
I love that
about
this. I ask you, like, it sounds like you're really developing your play now. It's only been a few months, but you've gotten more in few months than what most people get in 10 years. I want to ask you this. What were some inspirations for you that are people you look at in the space? Like, who are writers, directors, actors that like, man, that creative process from them is so... And I want to say this because I'm a big movie buff, Dario, if you didn't know.
Yeah, no, it's cool.
I'm a big movie buff. I want to be real. 2025 has been a run at cinema. I don't know. I have been at the AMC every weekend since the year.
Have you seen F1 yet? Have you watched F1 yet?
The only thing that I
missed. Oh my God, dude, so good. You gotta get to the theater now.
I missed it because I was on my honeymoon, but it's
bro, it's so good.
But I would say the palette of movies this year is crazy because, for example, F1 comes out, right? Then the next week it's Superman. Then this week I'm watching I Know What You Did Last Summer. Then next week it's Fantastic Four. It's like this palette is crazy. And then the rest of the year I'm like, dude, 2025 has been on a run. But I wanted to ask you, like, for some reason, I don't know if you felt this way. Movies, TV shows felt like they were just made in a boardroom. Like, I just felt, and I was speaking with one of our direct leads, Rebecca, remember her, that runs the whole thing on the weekend. I was just telling her, she's a big movie buff, film, cinema. And she was telling me, I was like, why does it feel like everything is the same palette? Like it's just a different little thing, but the character is the same development. They go through the same hero's journey or the same character arc. And it's like, it's just copy and paste. And none of the films I felt like recently have been taking risk or have felt dangerous in a way to really move cinema forward, except for some key films this year. But yeah, what are your thoughts on that? Like, how do you inspire? Who are some inspirations for you to make sure that things are coming fresh, things are?
I mean, listen. If you don't answer Pacino and De Niro, are you even a film person? You know what I mean? Godfather 1, Godfather 2. I mean, come on. There's
no three,
right?
No 3.
Godfather 1, Godfather 2, I'm a huge Matt Damon fan. Like his character in Born Identity, I could never even imagine anyone else being Jason Bourne. That one movie that was the Bourne movie without him, I couldn't even watch it. I was 18 minutes in, I left. I got popcorn. I finished the popcorn though, because I always finish the popcorn. I love movie theater popcorn. I love it. The more butter, the more salt, the better. But I could not, this is not Jason Bourne, right? So I literally had to stop watching the movie, but definitely Matt Damon. I mean, what he did in Good Will Hunting with Ben Affleck is masterful. The Martian's a great movie. He's got just a ton of movies, so I love Matt Damon's work, and he works at it.
Dude, the
Uh,
Odyssey next year. You excited for that?
yeah. So De
Wait,
Niro,
is Matt
obviously,
Damon also the
Pacino,
accountant?
but my favorite actor, and I've seen his career arc, and it's funny because I posted a picture on my Instagram yesterday on my story that has me as a kid modeling and this guy next to me, and there's such an uncanny resemblance. But I love Benicio del Toro.
Yeah. Isn't that your
He's
mix? Isn't that your mix? Benicio del Toro, Jeffrey Dean Morgan, and who else?
and Javier Bardem.
Have you ever like you're like the child of all three.
Yeah, totally. I kind of make fun of that. Obviously, I do it lightheartedly because in no way am I comparing to those guys are giants. What those guys have done on cinema and in shows, those guys are giants. So I just an idea to give casting directors kind of where I fit
Mhm.
because a lot of times they look at me and I'm 6'3", I'm 230 pounds, I'm big and muscular, I look a certain way, and they have a trouble figuring out, can this guy do romance? Can this guy do sadness? Can this guy do emotion? Or is he just a heavy?
Yeah.
And oddly enough, the stuff that I do really well is the sadness. The stuff I really do well is the kindness. The stuff I really do well is the depressed guy. I can play the heavy. Yeah, I can get loud, I can get big, I can, but I rather explore the softer side of me, and because of that, it really shows up on the screen, Anyway, so those guys, Javier Bardem's amazing. He's masterful. To be able to play his character in F1, but then No Country for Old Men and that maniacal murderer where he doesn't really say much. He's very deliberate about everything he does and says, and he's creepy as fuck, And then you see him in Vicky Barcelona. He's just a lover. He's part of this lover entanglement, and he's light and can get angry. So those are the guys that really I look at, and another one that a lot of people don't think is a great actor, but I do. Kevin Costner, like the stuff he's done, Tin Cup, For Love of the Game, Dances with
Dances with Wolves.
Wolves. There's so many of them. Draft Day, like, he's believable in any one of those characters. Like it's hard to pick apart. He kind of sounds the same, doesn't change his look ever. But the roles he plays now, he brings himself into them, and the way they show up on film, have been one of my favorites too. So I know it's a long answer, but I've been watching movies for a long time. I'm a big movie guy too, and those are the guys that I think do great work. Now there's obviously lots of actors out there doing amazing work. Those are just the ones that I kind of paid attention to.
What are some writers like? For me right now, one of my favorite writers of all time. I don't know what it is, but his work, and it's been traditionally like adapted pretty well. Like Neil Gaiman.
Okay.
Neil Gaiman's like a great writer, but any writers for you that you've like taken inspire from, like writers in the film industry?
I'm so new to this, and I've dived into the work so much that I haven't really taken the time to learn the writers, and I'm almost, I say it with a little bit of shame in me, because like I did I did a movie, New York, I Love You, for 4 weeks in front of, incredible casting directors and producers. And I played the same role 4 nights a week for 4 weeks in a row. And I still don't know who wrote that screenplay. And I feel kind of shitty about that, honestly. But I've been so busy working, developing characters and embodying them, you know what I mean, living them, that I haven't really given myself time to dive in, there. But I will. So thank you for reminding me of my deficiency. I appreciate that.
Hey, keeping it real, right? Hey, we out here.
No, totally. I love this.
I'm not surprised that you're good at the passionate role as a Latin man.
Hey, he's Mr. Ethnically Ambiguous. We don't even know. We don't even know.
Yeah.
I mean, Herrera.
Well, listen, this is my background.
Speaks Spanish, right?
This is my background. I'm Italian, Spanish, Lebanese, Cuban, and Chinese.
Wow. You're more of a mutt than me.
And what's crazy about it is I'm 6'3". How did that combination? And my dad's like 5'7", my mom's 5'5", maybe 5'6", and I'm 6'3". And I was born weighing 1 pound and 12 ounces at 5 months and 2 weeks. So those are the things that, like, I've been blessed, with a certain physical, like I literally won the most beautiful man of Las Vegas, like back in 1998 or something. And they asked me, what's it feel like to win this? I'm like, it's kind of a duty of honor knowing that I had nothing to do with it and I owe it all to my parents. You know what I mean? Like, what am I supposed to say to that? You know what I mean?
Wait, Dario, were you also a politician here in Las Vegas, or is that a completely different Herrera?
I was.
That was you? Okay, so if I looked you up really quick, I didn't know that it was the same thing. You're like, wow.
That's me. That's me.
Okay.
Damn, you've had a career, Dario. Well, look, I know we had that little call there. I know Marcos needs to get, but Marcos, any last questions to kind of call this out, because we've been close to an hour, so I want to make sure we're all respectful of each other's time. But Marcos, anything
I
else?
know it's just getting good. Thank you for thank you for giving us some time, and we love the fact that there's been moments like this on our podcast with individuals that are kind of hopping into new territories. We've had repeat visitors that have gone from, what seemingly was just shy and timid into like an author, and then like having this whole different like new projection on the world. And then it's a cool story to see. So and also too, it's great to know that like really no matter the age, if you keep yourself consistent, in shape, focused, head on a swivel, ready to go, that any opportunity that you're willing to take and have fun with could lead to a new opportunity in life, which is fantastic. And I wish we had more time. Sucks that you got
Well, how
called
about this?
away
How
for a
about
split
you
second.
guys had me come back on when one of my films about to hit the big screen, and you let me do some promo for that film, and we can talk about whatever else you want to, because these conversations for me is where life happens.
Yes.
Guys who care about who they are in the world, there's not enough of us like that. So for us to be able to connect and just have an honest conversation, obviously have fun, have some lighthearted moments, but talk about our purpose and what propels our purpose, that's beautiful. So I'd love to come back on. I'm going to plug whatever movie I'm in at the time, just in full disclosure. But I also want to dive deep, because Marcos mentioned, I was elected at a young age. I was 22 when I was a state assemblyman, at 24 when I was a county commissioner, at 26 chairman of the county commission. And I ended up doing time because I made a very stupid mistake, because I didn't have the moral compass that I should have had. And I paid a huge price, a massive price, and I came back from that, right? So the story itself is very, salacious and all those things. But to me, it's a little bit more interesting, like what I've done since then to, rebuild my life, and not without its setbacks, not without its failures. I mean, get into that too next time. But one day by day is like not letting that define me, and not let that be the last, chapter in my story, and just finding new ways to be better. I'm happy to dive into that too, but I'd love to be back.
We'd love it. And you're inverse Schwarzenegger.
Yeah, exactly.
First and then into a movie career afterwards. So, and I know you have some touches with bodybuilding, because you said you were 270 at one point. So there's layers to this onion, Seamus, and we barely peeled back the first one.
I think it just comes to show. I think like when you look for clues of success, right? Dario is like the living embodiment of that, right? Like taking care of your health, taking care of your mind, taking care of your thing. You get to, I think the best people in the world that I know, that I look up to, are always like, they're getting after it in multiple domains, and then it shows up in the domain that they're truly passionate about, which is acting for you right now, Dario, where it's like, yeah, they may have a great physique, they might do really well in performance, and they've competed at the high levels of different things. And then once they set their mind to something, it's like all these people have like so much similarities, and we can all like look at our routines and be like, yeah, look at these routines, look at these, specific things. But yeah,
consistency, and not being afraid to fail.
There it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thank you, guys. Appreciate you.
Thank you again. Hey, Mac.
All right, guys.
Until next time, we are out.
That's good. Thanks.